Well, I'll link this article in the description because it's got some nice information, especially about Orkney, way up there in North Scotland, and how most people would think of Stonehenge, but well, they mention here the Castlereagh stones, the King's Men, Hurler stones, but these are down in towards the south of England. But for instance, they've done studies from the University of Adelaide here in Australia. They looked into the astronomical connections up into Orkney, and found that it's just it's not random, but that they've got a lot of really cool information there. But beginning with, so up in Stenness, Brodgar in Scotland, and so that's where we have places like Skara Brae and Maeshowe, as well as the Callanish stones and the Ring of Brodgar, but up there in North Scotland and the Orkney region. And that, so Skara Brae was being covered by a sand dune. There was a massive storm, and it uncovered this ancient settlement. And just basically a stone's throw away, we have Maeshowe, which is this covered mound. But what's interesting about them, so they're both around about 5,000 years old. They tend to be conservative with their numbers. Some would suggest older than that. But what's also interesting is there's a growing idea that a lot of this megalithic building that it began up here in Maeshowe, Skara Brae, and later moved down to places such as Newgrange in Ireland, and down toward Stonehenge in these places. Like Stonehenge gets all the credit, but there are so many sites around that part, so Stonehenge is only one of many, many sites. But Skara Brae has, I couldn't find the exact photo of there, but there's plenty of info if you want to check closer. So there's a passage, and on the winter solstice, on that day, the sun shines down the passage and illuminates the altar type structure there at the back. The same thing happens at Maeshowe, where on the winter solstice the sun will shine through. Now that's the same as Newgrange in Ireland, winter solstice alignment. But also there's Gavrinis, that has the same thing. So down the passage on winter solstice shines down that passageway. So this also is a piece of pottery that was found inside Skara Brae there, and that's a nice connection because you can see the spiral in there, in these spiral and cylindrical, circular patterns in there. So that's the curbstone. That's at the front of Newgrange in Ireland. But if you also go to Gavrinis, on the inside along the passage we have these stones. And so there's a nice, so both aligned, sorry, double L, that's a legitimate, doesn't have to be one L aligned, but so you have very, very similar art forms in Gavrinis and Newgrange, which is also can be found in Skara Brae. So for instance, even this serpent here, we can see the same serpentine pattern happening as well. So there's also on the side of Newgrange where we see these stones again, where these crescent type patterns are emerging, very, very similar to Gavrinis in France. And again, just a comparison on the inside of Newgrange, and that's on the inside of Gavrinis in France. Skara Brae, again, these very similar art forms emerging. So then that's on the inside of Newgrange where we see again these spiral forms. And what's interesting is also in Almendras, Portugal, where we have this cromlech, this sort of stone arrangement. There's other bits of art. Now, it's not as many of them, but there are these very similar art forms that can be found there. So it's from north of Scotland into Ireland to Portugal and France. So we have these nice connections going in there. So I guess that's a very quick one. But yeah, just to show the similarities in the art forms, but also in the astronomical alignments of these, and these sites are by no means the only ones. Like astronomical alignments, solstice, equinox, basically are the standard for these sites, these ancient sites. So it's a very important feature in that they share similar art forms. Would be suggestive anyway that the trade of knowledge and of even products, because the more they study, the more they find that trade goods from even from as far as Egypt can be found up in Denmark, and so many from the Eastern Mediterranean are starting to be found in England and Ireland and these parts of the world. It was always considered that this ancient trade didn't happen, but the artifacts just keep mounting, and so that people in so again this growing theory that in the north of Scotland up towards Orkney, so this region, and that it transferred down, and and it's so very short distance from southwest England across there to Normandy, and again there are so many sites around here. There's Ile de Benekay, so these islands as well. Channel Islands have stone circles, and these other similarity going between them. The measurements as well is it becoming more understood that because it just is a common feature. So it's not just the archaeoastronomy, it's not even just the art forms and patterns and the trade goods, but even they're very, very similar measurements in dimension. So there seems to be some sort of standard going on in there as well. So anyway, just a quick one just to provoke maybe some interest and look further. There's a lot more info, but I'll put the link in the description to that one about the Orkney stone circles as well, and their astronomical alignments as well. Have a good one.